Good evening and welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for all North and South Carolina students, sponsored by the Carolinas Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admission Officers, or CACRAO, and StriveScan. We thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can utilize the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenter at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the presenter cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening through the CACRAO StriveScan partnership, so we encourage you to take advantage of any and all opportunities that interest you. And lastly, the presentation is being recorded and will be made available on CACRAO's website shortly after it has concluded. Now, at this time, I'd like to transfer it over to our presenter so he can begin his session.
Great, thank you, Adam. My name is Chris Bessie, Assistant Director of Admissions at Roanoke College. Thank you all very much for being here with me this evening to talk a little bit about Roanoke. I am a regional admission counselor, so I actually live and work in Charlotte, North Carolina, and work with all of our students that attend high school in the state of North Carolina. So very excited to be with you here this evening and talk a little bit about my alma mater. I graduated from Roanoke in 2014 and was a political science, criminal justice double major. Just as a couple more housekeeping items on my end, in a minute I'm going to share my screen and have the PowerPoint presentation up. I'll talk for about 30 minutes or so, just going over some general information about Roanoke. At that time, once I conclude, well, first of all, I'll talk about the academic side of things at Roanoke College. We'll talk a little bit about student life, and then of course the application process, scholarships, and financial aid. And once I wrap up with that, I'll take a look at the questions that are coming in and try to answer those for the last few minutes we have together. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, and hopefully you can see everything okay. So Roanoke College was founded in 1842. We are actually the second oldest Lutheran-affiliated liberal arts school in the country. So we've been around for quite some time, have a lot of great tradition and a lot of great success in getting our students to the next step, no matter what that next step is, whether it's graduate school, professional school, or a job once they graduate. A great example of that is our 21 Fulbright and Truman Scholars. We're actually one of the top producers in Fulbright and Truman Scholars in the country. We have just over 2,000 students at Roanoke. We have average about 18 students in a class and have a 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio. We also have 21 different NCAA Division III sports. We'll talk a little bit more about athletics a little later on in the presentation. This slide is what our incoming class looked like 2 years ago. We're still finalizing our numbers for last year, but we had just over 5,400 applications, which was another record year for us. Roanoke is getting more and more popular every year, which is fantastic. Incoming class of about 560 students. You can see our average ACT, SAT scores, GPA, those kind of things. Don't worry about those too much right now. We'll talk about those things more specifically a little later on in the presentation when we talk about the application process. What I do want you to pay attention to is the 43 different states represented, 31 different countries. Our students are coming from all over the country, all over the world, which I really think makes those smaller class sizes that are built in engagement and discussion in the classrooms so much better, to be able to hear different perspectives and hear students from different backgrounds in those discussion-based courses. So as promised, let's jump in, talk a little bit more about the education and academics at Roanoke College, because we know academics is one of, if not the most important part of your college search process. So at Roanoke, it is our mission to help you find your purpose, right? As I said in my introduction, we're really good at getting students to the next step, no matter what that next step is. But we want to do more than that. We want you to find your calling. We want you to find your purpose, the reason for it to get up in the morning, right? I know I certainly have found what I love to do. I enjoy working with students, and it wasn't my original career path, but Roanoke really helped me on this career path and helped me find, what I truly enjoy doing in life. It's true what they say: if you don't work a day in your life, if you enjoy what you do, So we want to do more than just help you get to the next step. We want you to help you find a purpose. And we do this in 4 main ways. We help you, of course, you're going to be working with a faculty advisor and get to have a faculty mentor. We want you to start building your resume the moment that you walk onto our campus. And we want you to fill that resume with real world experiences. And finally, we prepare you to be successful once you leave Roanoke College. So let's talk about each of these in a little bit more detail. Faculty mentor. At Roanoke, the moment that you say that you're going to be attending, we assign you a faculty advisor that's trained to work with first-year students. So this isn't somebody that's there just to check off the boxes, making sure that you're taking the classes that you need in order to graduate. Of course, they're going to do that, but they're also going to help you with the transition from high school to college. They're going to help you figure out what you may want to study. A lot of our students coming in have no idea. Some of our students think they know what they want to study and completely change their mind. I had a really good friend at Roanoke that came in thinking he wanted to study biology, he wanted to be a doctor, right? But he ended up taking Bio 101 and just did not go well. He really just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't what he expected. And, you know, he was honestly feeling a little distraught after that. Came back to his faculty advisor who said, well, I know we had a discussion about business. You said you may be interested in business as well. Why don't we just try a Business 101 course? And then you can, you know, just see how that goes and we can regroup after that. Well, that buddy is now an associate vice president at Wells Fargo. So I think that business course went well. He majored in business and now is very, very successful. Once you declare a major, which you don't have to do until second semester of your sophomore year, you'll have an advisor within that major. So my political science advisor was Dr. Ruben Goya. He's had an amazing impact on my life, and we're still very close to this day. But one of my fondest memories of Dr. Ruben Goya is when I was in his political science 101 course, and he's asking questions, and students are raising their hands, answering those questions. And you know, all of a sudden he just calls on me. I didn't have my hand raised, so my face just goes bright red, embarrassed, everything else. I knew the answer to the question. I had done the reading, but it was just taken aback that he called on me. And after the class was over, he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Chris, you know, were you uncomfortable that I called on you today?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Well, that's good. That means you're learning and means you're growing." And he was absolutely correct. You know, and your faculty advisors at Roanoke, you know, I always say it's not a place where they're going to hold your hand, right? They're certainly going to challenge you. We want you to find your full potential. You know, the only way that you're going to grow is if you're challenged and pushed to your truest abilities. But at the same time, it's a very supportive environment where our faculty mentors, you're going to get to know them well, and they're going to help you throughout your 4 years at Roanoke. So point number 2, as I said at the beginning, we want you to start building that professional resume the moment you walk onto our campus. I promise you, 4 years at Roanoke, you're not going to remember half the things that you have done by the time that you graduated. So our career services office really wants you to start that resume building right away. They want to get to know you well. And they want to help you with getting that resume started and getting that resume built. They don't want to wait until junior or senior year when you're applying to different graduate schools or jobs. They want to start with you right away. And honestly, our career services office is second to none. They will help you with everything from resume writing. They'll do mock interviews with you where they actually videotape you doing an interview, show you what you did well, what you need to work on, those kind of things. And of course, we have a lot of different career fairs, bring in a lot of major businesses, internship programs, for students to start networking with. A part of building your resume at Roanoke is the liberal arts education. And if all of us were in person right now, I would ask you if, you know, what you thought a liberal arts education is. And typically the responses that I get are small school or relationships with professors. And honestly, you know, a lot of times liberal arts institutions have those things, but it's not what makes it a liberal arts institution. The liberal arts is a broad education, right? We want our students to have a knowledge in multiple academic disciplines. So by the time that you graduate, you're a well-rounded student, right? I always give the example if I have a doctor. Of course, I want that doctor to be really good at biology. Of course, I want them to have studied biology, right? But I would also be more comfortable if the doctor was able to communicate clearly. Tell me what's going on. If something is wrong, communicate clearly how we're going to fix it, so on and so forth. I would also feel more comfortable if that doctor had a historical perspective of medicine, right? Where medicine has been, where it's going, all of that certainly helps, and it makes me more comfortable as a patient. So yes, biology, our students can major in biology, but we want them to take classes in multiple academic disciplines that make them much better at that one thing they want to do and what they want to study. And with the liberal arts education come the things that you see on your screen here, which time and time again, employers tell us that they look for in employees and applicants. So a broad knowledge base, of course, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, innovation skills. These are all important things to employers. Now, the next logical question is, how do you implement the liberal arts program at Roanoke? And I think this is something that makes us distinct. About 10 years ago, we used to have the typical gen ed requirements that you see at most institutions, the 101s and the intros to blank, right? Well, we did research and found that a lot of our students didn't enjoy these classes. They didn't think it was important to go to classes that didn't pertain to their major, and they weren't fun, right? So we got rid of the old way of doing it and implemented what's called our intellectual inquiry system, where you can take these classes in other academic disciplines, but they can either relate to your major or they're just more interesting to you. So example, for me, I was not a chemistry, science, just all of it went right over my head. I was not very good at those things. And the idea of taking a lab, 3-hour lab just was not exciting to me. Instead of taking a chemistry 101 course, though, I was able to take a chemistry and crime course. Where we actually used chemical techniques to solve different mysteries, murders, things like that. And it was fantastic and a lot of fun. I was engaged in the course, and I actually was learning chemistry techniques without even realizing that I was doing it. Another example, I worked with a student last year that math was not his thing. Just the thought of going to a math course or a math class made him physically sick. But he and I bonded over our love of baseball, and he ended up taking a statistics in baseball course. Loved it, right? He'd actually come back to my office and talk to me about, how excited he was and what he was learning in that class. He never in his life thought he would enjoy statistics, but he was doing it in a way that was interesting to him. So our classes are a lot more fun than your basic 101s and your intros too. Again, something that I think makes Roanoke College pretty distinct. Of course, we want you to build your resume with real-world experiences. And on average, our students have at least 5 different experiential learning opportunities. And you can see them here. The creative arts, art, music, theater, very popular at Roanoke. This is actually a student who double majored in business and art. He's very good at making pottery, started his own business selling his own pottery, and is very, very successful in the Roanoke area. The bottom left, service learning, something that's really important to us at Roanoke. In fact, for orientation, all of our students have to do at least an hour of community service working on our house through Habitat for Humanity. So what they will do is build the house right on our campus, and our faculty staff come and help as well. We've built about 15 to 16 houses at this point, and they're given to people in need. We bring the final house off of our campus to its final place and given to a family that certainly does need it. And it's amazing that all of our students get to work on this, and it's something that really bonds our community. And again, just shows that community service is important to us. A lot of our students do way more than the hour, though. They'll continue to work on our house, or I tutored for 3 days a week for a couple hours a day. I enjoy doing that. Some of our students will work in the food pantry, soup kitchens around the area. We love to give back to a community that really gives so much to us. Internships, always really important, right? You want to build that resume up with internships. Across all of our academic disciplines, internships are available to you. This particular picture you see on your screen is actually an internship. It's our Lutheran College Washington semester. Our students get to live in Washington, D.C. for a whole semester in a penthouse of a beautiful apartment complex. They have internships during the day, so students have worked for senators, for lobbyist groups, for the Supreme Court, as giving tours in the White House. I mean, you name it, our students have done it, for the museums, the Smithsonian, so on and so forth. And then at night, they take classes in the basement of the apartment complex that they live in. And then also every Wednesday, they get to go on field trips to different fun aspects of DC. So when in your life are you ever going to live in Roslyn, Virginia, right outside of DC in a penthouse of a beautiful apartment complex? And our students didn't pay a cent more than what they're already paying to go to Roanoke College. So wonderful opportunity there. We have many more opportunities like that for internships. And then in your upper right-hand corner, research is obviously important to us. I mentioned earlier our smaller class sizes. Also, we're undergraduate institutions, so our students aren't competing with graduate school students. And all of our professors have the highest degree or a terminal degree in their field. So they're all doing research as well, and they bring our underclassmen into, or they bring our students in to do that research with them. So you can start your research your first year. This student that you see, it was actually doing research on lobsters, and they were, I don't know what they were doing, but they had lobsters on treadmills and they were testing the lobsters. But pretty interesting student, and was able to actually publish her research with one of her professors. So great opportunities there. And then in your bottom right is, of course, study abroad, study away programs, which is really important and popular right now. Well, maybe not right this minute, but typically in a normal year. I would say majority of our students study abroad at least once. I know one student at Roanoke who's already studied abroad 4 times, and he's only a junior. So we have many opportunities for that. You can study abroad for a semester, study abroad for a year, study abroad during the summer. We also have May term programs, which we'll talk about here in a minute too. So here's some examples of our May term programs. May term is exactly what it sounds like. During the month of May, when you're typically done with your courses for the year, you take an intensive learning term. You're usually going with 15 to 20 other Roanoke College students, and you have 1 or 2 faculty members. You can do the class either on campus, travel domestically, or travel abroad for these courses, and they're really fun topics. You have to do at least one within your 4 years in order to graduate. You can do more than one. So I took a Civil War course, and we actually visited different Civil War battlefields throughout the country. It was really neat. Each one of us had to play somebody who was in that battle that day. We had to walk out onto the battlefield and explain what we did, show what we did. We were doing this with park rangers there, and they were critiquing us and telling us what we did right and what we did wrong. It was, just a lot of fun, especially for a history buff like myself. But you can see other examples of these here. May term in Alaska, May term in India, which they actually got to work with the animals of India, which was really interesting. You can see the tiger in the upper left-hand corner there. And then May term in the national parks. This was the national parks out west, actually. That picture that you see in the center of the sand dunes, that's actually Colorado. I know it looks like it's, abroad, but it's right here in the United States, Colorado. So our students get to go to the different national parks out west. And you can see having a really good time there. May term in Mexico, always a popular one. This one runs every other year. So giving our students the opportunity to go on these. May term in Uganda, quick shout out in the bottom right-hand corner there. That's my advisor, Dr. Ruben Goya. Native of Uganda, and actually does a lot of policy advocacy there. So he does a May term to Uganda, which is always a fan favorite. And then some of our semester-long programs. These are programs that we have direct relationships with. They're semester-long. We go with 15 other Roanoke College students and 1 faculty member. the semester in Leipzig and the Yucatan. So if we don't have a direct relationship with a place where you want to go, typically we'll work with you to make that happen. Being a smaller size institution, we're really able to individualize and personalize the process. All right, and finally, the last section about academics here. Of course, we want our students to be successful once they leave Roanoke. You can see some examples of what our students have done here. In the upper left-hand corner is a business policy project. Business has been our most popular major for the last 5 years. The bottom left-hand corner is a student who had an internship with the Cincinnati Reds and now works for Major League Baseball. We've had students that have gone off and had careers in music, television, theater, those kind of things. I already talked a little bit about vet school, and of course, med school is always really popular. The top middle picture I always think is pretty distinct. This is a student who is really interested in therapy and interested in equine studies. So she started her own therapeutic riding center after working at a therapeutic riding center for 4 years at Roanoke College. So just kind of shows the diversity of what our students do after they leave Roanoke. And one other thing that really makes our students successful in terms of academics and their career after leaving Roanoke College is our wonderful alums. Both formally and informally our alums help, but we do have our Maroon Mentor program where students are assigned or partnered with an alum that's in the field that they think they want to go into. So I always say if you want to work on Wall Street, right, you want to talk to somebody who works on Wall Street, somebody who lives it and breathes it every single day. It's great to have your professors in career services, but to talk to somebody who can help you with networking, getting a foot in the door, and really talk about what's great or not so great about that career is truly helpful in the process. And then you can see some other places where our students have gone to work after they've left Roanoke here. And finally, a statistic, especially for any parents who are on this evening, 93% of our students are either employed or in graduate school programs within a year of graduation. And these are jobs that require a bachelor's degree. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our campus. We are a residential campus. Our students majority live on campus for all 4 years. Multiple different types of living, everything from apartment style, suite style, community style. We believe if we want our students to live on campus, we have to have updated and beautiful residence halls. So we actually just started construction on our newest residence facility. We're taking our oldest athletic facility on campus and renovating it into apartment lofts. So multiple opportunities for living on campus. I think our students are very excited about that one. Dining on campus, we have our main dining hall. You can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or brunch and dinner on the weekends. It's a swipe system. Swipe in, eat as much as you want to until you leave. Freshman 15 is a real thing. I just warn you, the food is delicious. Of course, we cater to all food allergies or food restrictions. We're really good about that. We also have a second dining facility on campus, which is more fast food. Grab it and go. We have a coffee shop on campus, as well as a new restaurant that's going in. Called Fruitions, which will be really neat. And then, kind of talking about food still, but also about tradition here. Friday on the quad, 5 different Fridays throughout the school year. We actually have our dining out on the back quad. And you can see we bring in different Ferris wheels, bouncy houses, those kind of fun things for our students, but also for our faculty. I know our faculty and staff love to come, bring their families with them, bring their dogs, things like that, and truly, have a sense of community where everyone eats for free out on the back quad. One of my favorite traditions at Roanoke. And you can see some of our students enjoying that here. And real quick, while talking about a sense of community, I want to give a shout out to our executive chef, Matt. So, we don't hire a company to come in and do our food. We have an executive chef who is a Roanoke College employee. He's amazing. But when we sent our students home in March due to the pandemic, Chef Matt actually created tutorial videos, how-to videos, from everything of how to properly cut up an onion, all the way to, videotaping himself making his son's birthday dinner and sharing it with our students, because he wanted to still connect with students. students. I really think that's an amazing example of what our community is like. And I encourage all of you that when you're physically visiting campuses or doing virtual sessions like this, try to get a sense of what the community is like, right? I know when you're walking around Roanoke, you're going to hear conversations between staff and students of, how was your kayaking trip this past weekend? Or, a student asking a staff member of, I know it was your son's birthday this past weekend, how was that? You're going to hear those type of conversations. It's truly a sense of community. One of my favorite things about Roanoke. Now, we also have a lot of different events on campus. We've brought in major artists like Waka Waka, Wale, Time Flies, White Panda, and Asher Roth, just to name a few. But we're certainly a hub for local concerts, both on campus and within the local area of Salem and Roanoke. I promised we'd talk about sports. We're NCAA Division III. We're in the ODAC, the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. We compete against teams like Randolph-Macon, Washington, and Lee. We have 10 different men's teams, 11 different women's teams. About 25% of the student population are varsity athletes, but about 75% of the student population are involved in either varsity athletics, club sports, or intramural sports. So certainly an active campus. Over 100 different clubs and organizations. Yes, this student is dressed up like a carrot. He is promoting our gardening club as part of a fair that we put on at the beginning of every semester where the different clubs and organizations come out to promote. Very easy to get involved for our students, especially first year students coming out just to see what's available to you, but lots of different opportunities. Our Outdoor Adventures program is actually our largest program on campus. They offer different trips during the week and on weekends, everything from whitewater rafting, whitewater kayaking, hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing. I mean, you name it, we do it. We also offer all of our trips are led by students who get certifications paid for by Roanoke. So I was head of the Outdoor Adventures program as a student. And actually, I got my wilderness first aid certification and my Swiftwater certification both paid for by Roanoke, and I was able to lead these trips. So quite an amazing program. Greek life makes up about 25% of the student population, multiple fraternities and sororities on campus. It's one of those things, if you want to get involved, you certainly can. It's never going to be the make it or break it of your college career at Roanoke. I think 25% is the perfect population for our Greek system. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the local area. So Roanoke College, funny enough, is not located in Roanoke. We're located in Salem, Virginia, which is in Roanoke County. Salem is a college town, right? You can see Main Street here. It's great. A lot of mom and pop shops, things that you can walk to, coffee shops, restaurants. It's truly grown even since I've graduated. When I was a student there was one restaurant really that students went to. Now there are multiple, and all of them have a fun college night where you get discounts on food. So lots of opportunities right in downtown Salem. We're located about a 10-minute drive from the city of Roanoke. Now, we're not a Charlotte or a Boston or a New York or anything like that, but still a major city that offers a lot to our students, both in terms of a fun atmosphere and internship opportunities. In fact, we bring all of our first year students downtown for orientation for a night out on the town, where they get to go into the museums for free, get a lot of discounts for food in the shops, things like that. In the upper right-hand corner, you actually see the mayor of Roanoke welcoming our students to the city, which is pretty fantastic. So, it's nice to have that opportunity to go downtown too and enjoy the downtown atmosphere. And then finally, we're located at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So one of the most beautiful mountain ranges in the entire country. I know this photo looks photoshopped. It is not. This is right out our back door. We're located right next to one of the most photographed spots on the whole Appalachian Trail, McAfee's Knob. It's about a 10-minute drive and then a 2-hour hike from our campus. But I think it's really distinct to have a college that's located and has all three of these different types of living, right? So you have the college town, the major city, and the beautiful outdoors. I think, again, that's something that makes us a little bit different. I always said as a student, it was amazing to go kayaking during the day. come back, get ready, and then go downtown and enjoy a downtown atmosphere. You don't really get those best of both worlds in many places. All right, and finally, just to end here, please feel free to keep on submitting your questions. I will certainly address them as soon as I'm done with this last section here, our application process, scholarships, and financial aid. So Roanoke is a member of the Common Application. We accept both the Common Application and our own application. We don't prefer one over the other. It's completely up to you which one that you want to submit. We have 3 main deadlines. Early decision. Early decision is binding. That's when you say Roanoke College is my #1 choice. If I'm admitted and if it is financially feasible for my family, then I will go there. I will absolutely attend. So the benefits of early decision, it's rolling. So our students who apply early decision get to hear back quickest and earliest. Also, we're much more generous in terms of the admission process when it comes to students who apply early decision because they're making a commitment to come to Roanoke. Early action is the next deadline. Early action is non-binding, but you still get to apply a little bit earlier in the process and get a decision back earlier. Because finally you have regular decision. Regular decision is also non-binding. You're applying a little bit later, have more time to submit your application, but you don't get a decision back until a little bit later. So I always tell students the earlier that you apply in this process, the more advantaged you're going to be to this process. I'll also say get in touch with your admission counselor. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you about deadlines and release dates and those kind of things and what may be the best for you. And we're very transparent about the process. Our merit-based, well, before I go into that, let's talk about what we look for when evaluating an application. First and foremost is going to be your transcript. Please notice I say transcript and not GPA. Your GPA at your high school may be something completely different than a GPA at a high school down the street. Even if it's the same number, they mean very different things. So I try to get to know schools in my area well. I try to know how many AP or honors courses are offered, and really look at grade trends on your transcript rather than just think about the GPA number, right? We also take a look at test scores. We are a test optional institution. We have been for the last few years. So completely up to you if you want to submit that test or not. You saw the mid-50 at the beginning of the presentation. I always suggest as a general rule of thumb, if you fall within that mid-50 or even a little bit above, go ahead and submit those test scores. If not, don't worry about it. We're also test optional in terms of merit-based scholarships. So you don't have to worry about submitting those if you don't want to, or if you haven't been able to take them at this point. Other than that, we take a look at letters of recommendation, your extracurricular activities, your essay, and then of course your demonstrated interest in Roanoke. So that means you came onto this session tonight to learn a little bit about Roanoke College, right? You can also meet with me individually. I have my own landing page on our website where we can connect for a virtual individual meeting, or coming and visiting campus physically. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you can certainly visit for one of our virtual information sessions. We are open for campus visits at this point. We just limit the amount of families per tour, just one family per tour at this point. And we screen all families when they come to campus. So merit-based scholarships, you don't have to apply separately for those. Our general merit scholarships, we look at your application for both an admission decision and merit-based scholarship. All the things that I just mentioned, we're going to look at in terms of making a scholarship decision. Those scholarships range anywhere from $18,000 all the way up to $30,000 a year. We do have some scholarships that require a separate application. If you are interested in either theater, music, or art, we have scholarships for those that require either an audition or submitting a portfolio. You don't have to major or minor in those in order to apply for those scholarships, which is great. We also have an honors program and a fellows program. Fellows is more like an internship program, so you can certainly take advantage of those. They all both come with additional scholarship monies. And then finally, you have need-based financial aid. With that, you'll file the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. You can file that actually this week. So October 1st, you can start filing that. And with that, we calculate need-based aid that, of course, comes from the federal government, but also from Roanoke College to help with the need-based side. We're very generous when it comes to our need-based scholarships as well as our merit-based scholarships. So with all of that being said, if you get down to it and you receive your admit letter, your merit scholarships, your financial aid, and you say, yes, Roanoke's my #1 choice, that's where I want to go, you can go ahead and submit your enrollment deposit. It's an $800 deposit, almost like a down payment. It goes right towards the bill, but it secures your spot in the class. I'll mention you don't have to submit your deposit until May 1st. That's the National College Decision deadline. But students who submit their deposit earlier get put on a list to pick housing and classes earlier. That's just how we do it at Roanoke. So once you know, go ahead and submit that. Or if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or your admission counselor, and we're happy to answer those questions for you, about the final decision process. So I know that was a lot to take in. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now so I can take a look at what questions have come in and start answering those for you. If you haven't submitted them yet, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions along the way. All right. I think one of the major questions that we've been seeing time and time again is about test scores. A lot of institutions now are going test optional. Roanoke was lucky enough to be test optional the last few years, so we haven't really had to make any adjustments, which has been really good. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we're test optional for both an admission decision and merit-based scholarships. So you don't have to worry about submitting those tests. I always say if you fall within the mid-50, go ahead and submit them. If not, you certainly don't have to. But, I think with test scores, schools are being much more flexible. We're trying to understand that you're going through a lot with this college search process and application process through the pandemic. So if you have any specific questions, should I submit these, should I submit this, feel free to ask us. We can always answer those for you. The other question that we frequently get is going to be about the defer process. How many students did we have defer last year, and how's that going to affect the application process in the future for this year? So on a typical year, Roanoke defer has about 10 students who defer. And this year we actually had 50. So we had a lot more than we've typically had in the past. However, that's not going to change the way that we review applications this year. We've decided that we're not going to be more selective just because of that. So hopefully that answers that question as well. Any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. So another question is asking about extracurricular activities with the application process. I honestly think that extracurricular activities are the most overlooked part of the application a lot of times. So I always tell students to really take your time, make sure that you're filling out all of your activities, anything from sports, clubs or organizations, any religious organizations that you're involved in. I even had a student once put down that she, babysat her siblings for 3 hours every day after school. Honestly, that's really important for me to know, right? That's how I know she wasn't being able to be involved in other clubs or organizations, right? Because she had to go home and do this and take care of her siblings. But without her putting that on her application, putting down the exact amount of hours and time that she spent doing it, I would have sat there and said, wow, this student is lazy and isn't doing anything, right? when in fact she really was doing a lot for her family. So make sure that you're taking your time, really putting and emphasizing any leadership ability or any leadership positions that you have. Things like that on the application. On the Common App, you can actually put, there's 10 different slots to put your extracurricular activities. So you don't have to fill out all 10, but we want to make sure that you're doing things and really being involved. Another question asked about the demonstrated interest in that whole piece. Some institutions look at demonstrated interest, some do not. Feel free to ask admission counselors as you go through this process. Do you look at it? Do you not look at it? And if you do, how do you look at it? Specifically for Roanoke, we just want to see that you're demonstrating you're interested in the institution. So again, visiting here with me today virtually, that counts as demonstrated interest. Or signing up for a virtual high school visit, that always is very, very helpful. Or if you come and visit campus, that's the ultimate way to demonstrate interest, visiting campuses. If you do a virtual information session, we do track who registers for those and who actually attends those sessions. So you get credit for that. And I know at Roanoke, we actually have a visit grant. We have an in-person visit grant, it's $1,000, or a virtual visit grant. So just for watching one of the information sessions that we do or visiting campus physically, you receive $1,000 a year. If you're admitted just for doing so. So we certainly take demonstrated interest really seriously. I always explain it this way as an admission counselor. I have a student who I've worked with throughout the entire application process. I know really well. We've had discussions about which deadline to apply for, what they do extracurricular activity wise, those kind of things, versus a student I've never talked to in the entire process. Which one am I more likely to advocate for, right? It's going to be the one that, I've talked to and I've gotten to know throughout the process. So again, demonstrated interest is really important to us. All right. Any other questions? So I keep getting the question of, what is there to do on the weekend? And Roanoke is certainly an area where it's a lot of fun, right? We're not a backpack school, we're not a suitcase school, so our students aren't going home on the weekends, which is really, really important for you all to know, because it's far enough away where you can kind of gain your independence, but close enough to home where you could go home for a long weekend, but you wouldn't want to go home every single weekend. So lots of fun things to do on campus. Like I said, we bring in some major artists, have a lot of great events, clubs and organizations, those kind of things. But also the downtown atmosphere is a lot of fun. I again, as a student, I didn't really take advantage of downtown, but it's just grown and it is so much better since I was a student, so much more fun that, our students now really do take advantage of it and love it. And finally, the great outdoors. If you love outdoors or even if you're just interested and never have gone on an outdoor adventures trip, you can certainly do that at Roanoke. So lots and lots of opportunities for that. Like I said, kayaking trips, mountain biking trips, hiking trips. We actually have a pre-orientation program that takes students out for a week-long hiking trip and backpacking trip the week before you move into campus. And it's just a lot of fun. I did that as a student and then had no outdoor experience ever until I did that program, and then ended up becoming head of the outdoor adventures program. So there's lots of fun things to do on campus and within the local area as well. All right, not seeing any other questions come in. Just want to, I know I'm kind of running out of my time here, but just want to leave you with one final thing. I know that y'all are going through an application process and college search process through this global pandemic, and it's unlike anything any students have had to gone through before. So we understand that there are a lot of questions, lots of concerns, and we're always happy to answer questions for you along the way. I'll mention that Roanoke, I told you we're open for campus visits, but also our students are back on campus. We give our students the option to live or to come back to campus or not. All of our classes are virtual right now, but students can come back if they want to, or they can take their virtual classes from home. We had students that wanted to do both of those things. So about 60% of the student population ultimately moved back to campus, majority of our first year students, and then a good portion of our upperclassmen. So, but anyway, we're always happy to help and answer questions along the way. If you do have any questions for me, you can find all my contact information on the website. But thank you very much for being here with me this evening. And if there's anything else that we can do for you, just let us know.
All right, thank you for joining us this evening for the session. Following the closing of your window, we ask that you complete the quick 4-question survey that should appear. In addition, sign up for more sessions via the CACRAO website at cacrao.org, and a recording will be made available of this session once we have concluded. Take care and have a wonderful evening.